another reality. Sup, my fellas, don't forget to leave feedback and enjoy the story. Great heroes, embodiments of perfection, masters of an entire era, a crowd of people, led by a warrior standing on a cliff, draws swords to the sky. Masters, whose names alone signify their own huge weight. The hand holding the golden sword reaches out to the light. Events take us to the medieval world, right to the castle of the founding emperor, who was one of the legendary heroes and was the leader of the massive people. He went out on the balcony and agitated the crowd. We are presented with a variety of characters, starting with a deservedly praised person and ending with a healer who saved many patients. These characters are completely different and unlike each other. A dark-haired guy in a white shirt stands indignantly, wondering why all this flattery, because the words about heroes are just ridiculous. He clenches his fist angrily, remembering how Savage B just waved his fists. The main character bares his teeth in anger because a jock in a lion mask with all the dope beat up a child who was not even 10, not hiding a smile. The child was sent flying by the impact into a pile of sand that covered his head. A guy barely alive comes in rags to a girl with a blue square. She is only touched by the appearance of the hero. A girl throws a poor guy tied up with a rope into a fire pit. His face reflects fear and horror, tears come to his eyes, while the face of the cute girl is now distorted in a malicious smile. Remembering all his trials, which were justified by the fact that they were for good, the guy sends great heroes to hell. To him, all these elites are just a bunch of obnoxious blockheads. The guy finishes his speech, happily saying goodbye to everyone gathered in the gallery of heroes. However, Davy is approached by two girls. One of them says that the guy is still weak, and the cutie with the square reflects that the little sister should have thrown him into the pool filled with magma more often. Davy wonders why millennials call themselves his little sisters. The reference to age makes the girl with the blue braid so angry that she smashes the stone with her fist with all her might. She tries to shut Davy up while several people try to hold her down. At this time, the main character covers his ears and breaks into a smile, incurring the annoyance of more and more people. In the end, the enraged heroes manage to calm down the girl in a medical gown. Davy looks around questioningly. All the elite are watching him from the balcony. The guy's red eyes widen in surprise, and he is pleasantly pleased with the reaction of the audience to his departure. The characters ask you not to forget them even after Davy wakes up. The guy listens intently. He stands completely barefoot, about to leave. Davy turned and walked briskly toward the door. Great heroes accompany the young man, not hiding their tears. At the moment it stops. I can tell by the smile on his face that he's overjoyed. As he hurries toward the cluster of lights, he hopes that it won't be long before he sees all these people. The hero disappears from view along with the glow. Total darkness sets in. One last blinding flash fills the space. The green stone is surrounded by small air bubbles. The magic emerald lies in the container, turning the liquid around it green. A catheter is inserted into the arm, through which green liquid enters. We are transported to a room with a bedridden person who is kept alive by an IV. The wind sways the thin curtains. The hand holding the catheter is shaking slightly. The action takes place in another reality, where the main character, bedridden, finally comes out of a coma, unable to even open his eyes. Davy manages to crack them open for a second and sees an expensive chandelier hanging from the ceiling. Exhausted, he eventually gives up. He opens his eyes slightly again to look around, his face looking exhausted and sore. His eyes fall on the family portrait. As you approach, you can see the little prince with tousled hair and huge red eyes. The guy looks into the face of the happy boy from the portrait and realizes that he has returned to the world where he is the powerless and abandoned Prince Davy all wrong. The map shows the location of the small and infinitely ordinary kingdom of Ron on the continent of Thionis. The family portrait directly opposite Davy's bed makes him reminisce. He still lies motionless on the bed, but now he thinks with nostalgia about the carefree beginning of life in this world, when he could fully enjoy luxury. Imperceptibly dusk falls, the light in the room becomes less and less. The guy is overcome by a slight sadness in trying to realize his naive behavior. From the very beginning, as a young boy, the main character, who had previously lived on modern Earth, truly believed that his happiness was infinite and did not understand what the title of prince could cost him. His mother was poisoned with a bowl of poison, her body falling lifelessly to the floor in a scattering of pearl ornaments. Davy's own life was constantly under threat, and sometimes a suspicious carriage passed close to him on his walks. Even his own father, the titled king, had refused to let Davy go. Among other things, the guy was almost killed with a bow shot by a well-aimed rider. You can't see the shooter's face. Davy interrupts himself at this thought, so as not to get too sentimental. He's still in bed, but he's already making it his first priority to recover his body. Davy had been thinking for so long that it was already morning. A bloodthirsty grin appears on his face. He promises to provide a warm welcome to the rider who tried to kill him in the past, because his body has become very strong after 1,000 years of training with heroes. The figure of a long-haired boy stands out from the whole mass of people. He looks suspiciously like the mysterious rider who tried to kill Davy. His green eyes sparkle with pleasure, and his mouth twists into a predatory smile. We are once again transported to the world of heroes, where little Davy, curled up in a ball, sits in a clearing and whimpers. A barefoot appears right behind him. The guy turns around and asks with displeasure why they are looking at him so askance. A muscular guy with a huge ham in his hand sits down next to him and, with a sincere smile, replies that he knows about the situation, praises Davy for teaching the offenders a lesson. The main character looks away and rudely snaps off that he said everything to the point, so let them laugh at him as much as they want. In the boys' memories, a picture pops up of how everyone initially rejoiced and praised him, carried him in their arms like a hero. But once they found out that Davy was just a normal kid, they treated him like an insect. A guy with a jock confides, watching the sunset. Davy admits that he could not immediately reveal his identity because he was scared. The man replies that he didn't know that. The main character gets bored with the conversation. He frowns in displeasure. Looking directly at the man in the lion mask, Davy aggressively asks why the man came to see him. The man begins to talk about setting himself and other proud heroes against an ordinary boy, whose appearance has become quite unusual, while the guy listens to him with dissatisfaction, turning away. But his attention immediately turns to the lion-masked hero when he mentions some joint decision that Davy doesn't even know about. The muscular guy grabs the main character by the scruff of the neck like a kitten, calling him lucky. Davy is completely confused. The man in the lion mask explains to the confused guy that the heroes decided to listen to his words and make him a member of their family. Davy wonders how they can be a family if he doesn't even know anyone. Then the hero in the lion mask suddenly blurts out that his name is Hercules, while continuing to hold Davy in the air. He is completely baffled, being literally in limbo as Jock adds that his middle name is Master of Survival. Then the guy remembers that he's heard it somewhere before. Hercules declares that he will become Davy's coach and carries him away, holding him by the shirt. We abruptly return to the room with the expensive chandelier. Davy looks around his room carefully, taking a surprised breath. The liquid with the magic green crystal is already running out. The guy is still bedridden. He closes his eyes and realizes that he's really back. We are presented with a magnificent castle with red and green tiles, long passages, and high towers. Focus is directed to the highest point of the building. Light seeps into the room through the half-open door. Davy is lying on a large bed, newly woken up. While the maid changes the healing emerald solution for the guy, he notices that only she comes to him. The girl is wearing a black dress with a white apron, and her thick red hair is braided in 2 pigtails. While the girl sets up a container filled with medicinal liquid, the guy explains only her visits by saying that he was in a coma for a long time. However, the guy is surprised by the fact that he is visited by only one maid and no one else. The room is completely dark. As the maid heads out with the wooden cart, Davy is glad that someone has been assigned to him in this state. Opening one eye slightly, the guy makes sure that the girl has left his room. Now that there's not a single soul around, he can lift up a little. That's all his exhausted body can do so far, but even in this position, his hand is shaking slightly. The guy is not yet able to fully move. The first step is to check what year it is. The report in the alternate world is based on Baldy's calendar, which just happens to be on Davy's nightstand. Looking into it, the hero learns that the year is 276, which means that 6 whole years have passed since the day of the injury. He clutches the wretched calendar in one slightly working hand. One by one, the details of that fateful day come to light. The grass is sprinkled with blood as soon as an arrow is stuck in Davy's back. Just behind him is the barely discernible figure of a rider. After this memory, Davy glares angrily at the calendar and repeats that it's been 6 whole years. His lips are completely closed in indignation. The guy assures himself that he will not allow such a thing to happen again, taking a break. To do this, he needs to recover from a prolonged coma as quickly as possible. He looks questioningly at the slightly raised hand, wondering if he should start right now. The guy clenches his fist, hoping that he can magically heal, as is usually the case in computer games, but this method does not work. We are transported to the world of great heroes. Magic sparks fly from Davy's hands. A lady with a long braid in a Greek temple explains to the guy that the amount of his sacred power is quite average, but he may well become the best, as he has the potential to use it. The guy, sitting on the marble floor, asks not to rub this nonsense on him to force him to remove the gallery. It is further explained that the sacred power, or the power of God, is responsible for healing and purification. A priest and a floating female figure join their hands in prayer, and the space around them is filled with sacred power. This power is often bestowed on a pet as a blessing. Saint Daphne, who went down in history as having accepted God, taught Davy the sacred power. Despite the small amount of power, the guy had enough of it. As a result, the main character after 100 years of training mastered the sacred power. However, now Davy can't use his power to heal, so after 6 years of coma, his body is simply ossified. He keeps his arm outstretched, hoping the force will work, but to no avail. Initially, the guy was afraid that all the powers that he mastered in the Gallery of Heroes and does not transfer with the transition to another world. However, most of the powers were transferred to the old body as soon as the soul returned to it. Now Davy is trying to move his body by moving his arm. He grits his teeth as he tries again to activate the sacred power. When nothing comes of it, Davy threatens to beat up his arm if he doesn't move. The threat is triggered, and the guy manages to activate the sacred power. Near his hand, ephemeral wings appear, flooding the space around with bright light. Overjoyed, Davy uses the force to recover and, leaning on the nightstand, confidently gets to his feet. He walks along the wall, elated that he has conquered the sacred power. As he passes the windows, he decides to slowly restore what's left. A strong wind blows open the window, lifting up a completely weightless curtain. Davy stops at the open window, his eyes transfixed. It offers an incredible view of the city. The sun is shining high in a clear sky. The wind ruffles the young man's hair, the sun shines on his face, the boy closes his eyes with pleasure. With a funny smile, he spreads his arms one at a time. Not holding back his happiness, the guy shouts out a greeting to the sun. He is happy as a child, still standing in a ridiculous position with a funny grimace. His idol is interrupted by the clink of a broken plate, which the already familiar maid accidentally lets go of her hands in surprise. Noticing the girl, Davy tries to say hello to her in absolute confusion. She is horrified to recognize the strange young man as a prince, not understanding how he can stand on the balcony with the window open if even today his body, exhausted after a prolonged coma, lay on the bed, showing no signs of activity. A confused Davy falls to his knees, screaming to just let him die as he runs as fast as he can towards the prince. The guy has a stethoscope on his chest. The court doctor Ramses listens attentively to Davy's heart rate and breathing, not hiding his surprise. The doctor is amazed at how quickly the boy's body condition has improved. The main character does not hide his smile. Ramses questions the patient for pain, but Davy reassures the doctor that he feels only a little tired. The old man just scratches his gray beard with a kind smile.
Investing in real estate makes sense, but where do you start? You start on the ground floor. With 10 years of consistent 10% returns, Ground Floor has just released its third-generation investing platform. Get started with as little as $100 and instantly invest in up to hundreds of available high-yield loans on our platform, all backed by real estate and all with no fees ever. This is your real estate investing easy button. With an informative dashboard and access to your transactional history, you'll start receiving steady cash flow in as little as 3 months. Build your future on solid ground with Ground Floor. Now available in the app stores.
Davy thinks that in the past he wouldn't have been so dismissive of an elderly doctor, but now he realizes that he is part of the royal family of the Ron family, the firstborn of Queen Rini Alisad and the current king. A woman with a fan appears in Davy's room, unhappy that the guy survived. The woman folds her fan and runs her eyes over the patchy comatose man. The guy's Dizo expresses complete indifference at the sight of this person, the poisoner of his mother. Now Linz Barrietta, standing right in front of his bed in a yellow robe, is the acting queen. Her children Callus and Benedict, standing side by side, bear the titles of second and third prince. We see the sparkling green eyes and grin of the eldest son. He is as surprised as his mother at the first prince of the kingdom's vitality. Queen Linz asks with a wicked grin if Davy saw who shot him. The guy plays the fool, replying that it was impossible to see the shooter's face. He asks if the would-be killer was caught by accident. Glaring at Callus, Davy adds that the culprit will face serious punishment for attempting to kill a member of the royal family. Callus stands in a cold sweat, trying to hide the fear in his eyes that were still burning. The queen saves her son from the protagonist's piercing gaze, giving a negative answer and adding that the incident is already too old. Davy gives Callus one last disdainful look. The court doctor completes the examination, prescribing regular examinations and medication to the boy, and then leaves the prince's chambers with the maid. The queen says out loud that it would be better if Davy just died. The guy is being sarcastic, wondering if Queen Linz is sorry that the eyesore hasn't gone away. Callus then tries to embarrass the first prince by reminding him that Davy fell into a coma due to some kind of attack. He calls out to his younger brother, and the three of them leave. Davy looks at the closed doors and thinks that the queen and her sons enjoy embarrassing the country and getting caught up in an assassination attempt. The boy holds up his hand, proclaiming that he will now use the sacred power to heal, because no one in